great day at the Academy of Scholars. Welcome to another episode of Scholarly Speaking Live with Dr. Stacy Lambert-Johnson, the Director of Student Success at the Academy of Scholars. I am Benny Crane Jr., the Assistant Director of Student Success. Today's topic will discuss how to keep negative influences away from your children.
Thank you for joining us for today's live session. No matter where you're joining us from, whether you're at work or at home, we pray that you're having a great AOS day and hope that you can visit us here on campus someday soon. Last week we talked about what, if anything, is different about today's generation. This week we're talking about how to keep negative influences away from your child. But before we get started, Benny, where can our viewers watch today's live session once it's over?
Everything from this show ends up on our website, academyofscholars.com, including both the audio and video versions. Now, if you prefer looking at us, you can find the video version on our Facebook page, YouTube channel, LinkedIn, and Instagram. If you like listening to podcasts on your drive to work like I do, you can download the audio version anywhere you download your favorite podcast. We want to take this opportunity to say hello to all the people who are joining us live today. Also, shout out to the people who follow us on our social media platforms. We appreciate you joining us. Do us a favor and tell your friends we're on. All you have to do is hit that share button right there, comment, and tell us about your kids and their friends. Do your kids have a good friend group? Or do they have some friends you wish they stay away from? Tell us. We want to know.
So Benny, I was asked last week, how we come up with the topics for Scholarly Speaking Live. And I told the individual who asked that most of the times I select a topic based on experience that I've had with a scholar, with a parent, or with my own family.
Yes.
Well, today's topic comes from an experience I had with my grandson, Dante. He's 13 years old, and he attended AOS for 5th and 6th grade. He's now in the 8th grade.
Wow.
When it comes to his behavior, he is an absolute scholar.
Absolutely.
He's respectful, kind, and considerate of others.
Yeah, shout out Dante.
He loves playing video games and making TikTok videos. That's his new thing. So he's a typical 13-year-old.
Yes.
Now, my fear with him leaving AOS and attending middle school years ago was how would he fit in with others and whether or not he would be a leader and not a follower. When he was at AOS, he always wanted to hang out with the cool kids.
Right.
And I know, at AOS, all of our scholars are very well behaved, so that wasn't an issue.
Right.
But now that he's in public school, my fear was that the cool kids aren't necessarily always the ones that you want your kids to hang around with.
Right.
Well, long story short, my daughter called me to tell me that she ran into one of his teachers at the grocery store, and our biggest fear was realized.
Oh, no.
Okay. Apparently, he's decided to befriend a group of students who, according to the teacher, are not children that he should be hanging out with.
Wow.
The teacher said that he's a respectful, well-behaved individual,
Yes.
and that the boys that he's chosen to hang out with are not. And they're starting to influence him. Oh my goodness.
Oh no.
My daughter was devastated, and she wanted to know what should she do other than to keep him at home and virtually teach him for the rest of the school year. So, we got to talking about it and researching, and that's how we came up with today's Scholarly Speaking Live topic. So parents, how can you determine if your child's friend is a negative influence?
Old folks used to say birds of a feather flock together, which was their way of saying if you're hanging around with a person who does X, Y, and Z, that must mean you like to do X, Y, and Z. So let's keep it real. It's not always that our kids are being influenced negatively by their peers. Sometimes they may be engaging in negative behavior because they enjoy it and they just about their life. So determining if the friends are a negative influence is really important.
That's right. So parents, first look at your child's behavior. Have you noticed any negative changes? My mom used to say all the time, if you lay with dogs, you'll get fleas. So if your child is hanging out with individuals who exhibit negative behaviors, they will start to exhibit and imitate those behaviors as well.
And this usually first manifests itself in the way your child communicates, in phrases they use, and oftentimes how they respond to you. If you have multiple children, it plays out many times in how they relate and communicate to siblings. So if you're noticing or hearing new ways your child is communicating, this could be a sign.
That's right. Now second, listen and look to see if your child is afraid of their friend. If you notice that your child seems to be afraid to disappoint or disagree with their friend, this is something to be concerned about. They may not know it, but your child may be a victim of passive bullying.
And both of these suggestions, and even some that follow, require observations of your children before you're taking action.
Right.
Being attentive and knowing how your child operates in the first place is the only way to notice when there are changes in their behavior.
That's right. Now, third, if your child's friend is a rule breaker, it is likely that they are a negative influence on your child. If they're often in trouble at school and try to encourage your child to do the same, including breaking rules at home, they're probably not someone that you want your child to hang out with.
I don't think so. And another note about our suggestions today and about your children and the children they're around. The only way you will truly know if your child is being negatively affected by the behavior of another child is to see the other child in action. This requires opportunities like play dates for your younger children and time to hang out with friends in your presence with your older kids. I don't have any problem with my kids having company and sleepovers at my house.
Right.
I have a much greater level of comfort with my kids at my house with friends because I can control the environment and I can see the behavior of the kids they're around. If you don't ever see or hear your children around other children, you'll never know what influence your children are being exposed to.
That's excellent. That's a good one. Now, fourth, if your child's friend often takes risks or engages in risky behaviors, this is a red flag. Risky behaviors coupled with a group mentality and the inability of children to make good choices or control their impulses could lead to disaster.
Those daredevil friends are the ones to really watch out for. One study on children ages 6 to 12 had children watch videos of similarly aged kids performing dangerous maneuvers on the playgrounds. When asked if they could see themselves taking the same kinds of risks, the children who had seen other kids speak positively about their actions were more likely to say yes. And research confirms that teens are more likely to display risky behavior like taking drugs or alcohol when their friends have already done it.
So parents, what should you do if you find that your child has a friend who is a negative influence on them? First, keep the lines of communication between you and your child open. Make sure to ask questions such as why they choose this person to be their friend. What makes that person a good friend? Whether or not they believe that person has a positive influence on them and why, and what they believe are qualities of a good friend. Listen intently to their responses and focus on their feelings, their beliefs, and their decisions about being friends with this particular person or group of people. Get their input, but provide your input as well. Be sure to remain calm and not accusatory.
And that one could be tough. As parents, we should make a habit of taking time to talk to our kids every night anyway. Put chores and screens aside and spend focused time with your child every evening. The dinner table is an awesome place for this. Ask them, what's new with your friends, or how's Asia doing? This will give you insight into their social interactions and give you a chance to figure out what's happening behind the scenes.
Now, second, avoid being critical or passing judgment on their friend. This won't be effective. It will cause your child to be defensive and will actually have the opposite effect of what you're trying to accomplish. The focus should be on the behavior and not on the friend. For example, instead of saying, I really don't like your friend Jeffrey, he's disrespectful, cite clear examples of bad or disrespectful behavior and instead say, I don't like how Jeffrey talks back to me and other adults. By using specific observable data, the discussion remains objective and prevents your child from feeling that you disapprove of their choice of friends for no apparent reason.
That's great advice, Stacy. And I like to pair talking about the behavior with, I don't know what's okay at Jeffrey's house, but it's not okay in this house. Saying this expresses my disapproval and it sets a limit.
How many times have I had to say that as a parent? Wow. Finally, set limits and boundaries. We are the parents, not the best friends. Let your child know that the limits and boundaries you set are aligned to the values you want them to have as they grow up. Children often see rules as limitations set for them by parents to hinder them, and they don't realize their importance. Explain clearly that the rules you set are rules to protect them and help them prosper, not rules to harm them. If you know your child's friend is engaging in behavior you don't agree with, then set a limit on how much time and where your child can interact with them, if at all. Well, what do you think? Does your child have friends who you believe are a negative influence on them? How have you handled it? Did you learn something new from today's episode? Comment and let us know your thoughts on today's topic.
If you're looking for more information to help your children avoid negative influences, go to our website at academyofscholars.com/scholarly speaking resources. In the meantime, we suggest you check out the audiobook Best Friends, Worst Enemies, Understanding the Social Lives of Children by psychologist Michael Thompson and children's book author Catherine O'Neill Grace. In my time at the Gurian Institute in my pursuit of a gender studies certification and a few other places, I've heard Michael Thompson speak, and he is great. I've read of some of his books, like his most famous one, Raising Cain. Now, this audiobook discusses things like the difference between friendship and popularity, or how boys and girls deal in unique ways with intimacy and commitment, whether all kids need a best friend, and why cliques form and what you can do about them. And remember, no matter where you live in the world, you can give your child access to an exceptional Christian affordable education with the Academy of Scholars Premier Online Learning. Not only does the Academy of Scholars give your child the opportunity to engage in school at their own pace, but we also provide a comprehensive curriculum with classes like coding and computer science that will have your child excited about school each day. The Academy of Scholars Premier Online Learning is the online school you've been looking for.
Well, I hope you enjoyed today's live session. To learn more about our amazing school, the Academy of Scholars, please go to our website at academyofscholars.com. Join us next week as we continue our live discussions. Next week, we'll be talking about setting boundaries for children. Until next time, I am Dr. Stacy Lambert-Johnson.
And I'm Benny Crane Jr.
Saying
Goodbye
goodbye and be blessed.